I wanted to kind of go through one of the most frequently asked questions that I get regarding trust and estate. So, you guys know this is, we talk here about legacy, we talk about protecting your assets, and we talk about, all the different ways that you can and should, and all the things that are involved with that. And so, one of the main topics in asset protection is trust. Why? Because it's a really versatile tool that allows you to have a lot of control over your assets. It allows you to put a plan in place to make sure that your loved ones are protected if something were to happen to you unexpectedly, which happens all the time. And so it's one of the tools that we use. Not perfect for everybody, and it's not that everyone must have one, but most people with a significant amount of assets, I say at least over 100K, usually some real estate, should consider whether a trust is right for them. Like those doctor commercials where they say, talk to your doctor about this medication. So that's the thing. Talk to your legal professional about whether it's right for you. But I kind of wanted to get into what it is, because a lot of people find it sort of mysterious. Like, I don't understand really, like, what is a trust? How does it actually work? And so I wanted to kind of dissect that a little bit. And so high level, which I've said before, trust is like a contract. It's a contract between the person who creates it, their trustee, which could be the same person in certain circumstances, and the beneficiary. So it's really for the benefit of the beneficiary. So the beneficiary is whoever is going to benefit from their assets, from their, cash, real estate, stock accounts, all that good stuff. That's who your beneficiary is. And you have the flexibility to pick and choose whomever you want. And that's the really beautiful thing about planning, is that you get to decide and you get to have your say, and your assets go exactly how you want them to go. And the bigger overarching thing here is that we all are here to sort of make a mark on this world. And I don't want to sound all woo woo on you, but like, it's really true. Why? Because I said it. It's true. We're here for a purpose. Everyone has their own purpose, and it should be more than just living your life for the here and now. But think about how beneficial your life is, or the things that you have benefited for in your life because someone else was here and because someone else paved the way for you. So we should just be thinking about preservation and passing on and creating and leaving that legacy that we are here to create. So let's get into talking about trust, right? So what I told you what a trust is. And, a lot of times people ask me, can I do a trust on my own? Can I just do it DIY? Or they want to know how come there's like a higher cost when it comes to creating a trust versus a will. And so a trust can be very technical because of the fact that what you're doing is you're giving this document, or you're transferring to the trustee of the document, all of the rights that you essentially have over your assets. So the rights that you have to your accounts, the rights that you have to your property, the rights that you have to everything that you essentially own. So we want to make sure that it's clear. We want to make sure that, it has all of the language that's necessary to do that. And not only that, because it's similar to a contract, or it's considered a contract under the law, if there are things in there that's vague, right? It's not clear. No one kind of understands what was meant. And there's just things, if there's a lot of gray area, it can actually cause your trust to be brought into court. Right. So the whole purpose of really doing a trust, and I would say one of the purposes, right, of really doing a trust is to avoid what we call probate. And probate is where your estate has to go through the court system, and the judge gets to basically make decisions about your estate in terms of, what did you mean? Who did you want your assets to go through? What would you have intended? And that's what we really don't want, because most of the time the judges don't understand the dynamics of all of our families, right? They don't understand, who's who. They just assume that you would want your siblings or your parents, or, if there's no one else, your children, whatever the case is, they just assume that's who you would want. But many of us have different either views on life. Maybe we want to, maybe we have a best friend or a niece or nephew, or maybe we want to bless a charity, whatever it is. We each are unique individuals. We each have a different legacy to leave, and we each get to decide what that is. So you don't want to kind of leave it up to a cookie cutter, the court gets to decide. So that's one. And so So that's the whole point of us doing a trust, is to sort of avoid that court system. Another reason why we want to avoid the court system is because it costs money. It causes a delay if somebody's there waiting to benefit from your estate, like a child or somebody who's really dependent. It's going to be a delay. It's going to, take away from the value of your estate, and it's public. So all of your family's business is out there, right? Okay, but I've said these things before. So that's one of the reasons. Why we want to avoid the court system. And so when a contract, I was talking about if the trust is vague, if it's not clear. When a contract is not clear, then the only way to make it clear is to have a judge to determine, what did you mean? What was trying to be said here? And so that leaves, room for interpretation, and then that leaves room for your wishes to be changed. And we don't want that. We want things to go exactly how you decided. So I brought a prop today. So I brought a trust that we have drafted in my office. And just so you could see like how many pages this trust is, like this is actually a very simple trust for one of our clients. And it's just like shy of 100 pages. And the reason for that is because we don't want you to hire an attorney, go through the trouble of putting all of your wishes together and listing all of your assets and coming up with a plan just to be back at square one, right? So we try to be as thorough as possible, and you want to make sure that, you are working with an attorney or professional who kind of has that mindset. We want to make things as thorough as possible. There are certain areas of the law that you can DIY, right? There are certain areas of the law that could be like automated and cut and paste. And, even though we do use like software to help us so that we're not writing every single word, it takes a lot of time to analyze and make sure, well, if this happens, then what's going to happen here? Or if we draft it this way, we use this language, is it going to have the outcome that the client wants? Like, because everybody's life is different and there's different dynamics. So it really takes a lot of time and skill to really put these things together. So what I wanted to actually get into, now that you have that framework, is, what exactly is in a trust and how does that sort of help me or protect me? So I'm going to go through some of the clauses. Obviously, I can't tell you every single thing because we don't have enough time and you don't want to hear it either. So, but I want to give you some of the high level things that are in the trust so that you kind of know, like, what is all this language talking about? So one of the first sections is the name of the trust, obviously, right? So we have to name the trust something. And typically, you have the flexibility to name the trust pretty much anything you want. We try to give some framework because it makes it kind of easier for people to understand. Like, say your trust needs to do a transaction with a bank or with the lender or, anything like that. Maybe needs to do a real estate transaction or anything that a trust needs, any business a trust needs to sort of conduct. We kind of want to streamline it a bit because we don't want it to just be something crazy like Jim and Joe's Deli. Like, obviously it's like, what? That's a trust. You don't want it to be that. So we'll typically have you, like, say it's a living trust, which is a typical type of run-of-the-mill trust that almost everybody's plan is going to include. Even if they have an advanced, sophisticated plan, they might still include a living trust or a revocable trust, right? This is the type of trust that you put in place that you can change. You have the flexibility within this trust to, make decisions, change your mind, add assets, remove assets, all that kind of fun stuff. Typically, it's going to be, whatever you want to name it, followed by living trust, right? And that's, like I said, just to sort of make sure that it's streamlined. The law doesn't really say that you have to, stick to that. But in order to make it easier for running the trust and logistics, you want to kind of have it, form that way. So, you could name it anything you want. Most people, just because they're like, I'm not creative, I don't know what I want to name this trust, most people will go with their last name. I typically don't recommend first and last name because even though a revocable trust or living trust does not give you anonymity, right? It doesn't necessarily protect your identity. Whatever anonymity you do have, you're kind of just like giving that all away when you use your whole full name. So that's just one, tip to not necessarily name it that. However, you do have that flexibility to name it whatever you want. So you can get creative there. And what's going to happen is the name of the trust is going to also be on the name of any of your assets that you end up putting in the trust. And we're going to actually we could talk about funding now. And so how that works is that in order for your trust to be able to control the assets that you put in the trust, your trust has to own them, right? Just like you can only control what you own and you have authority over it. So if your trust needs to own these assets, so say for instance, your bank accounts, you want to make sure that the trust is named on your account, or the trust is a beneficiary of your account. Some institutions have accounts that allow you to make your trust the beneficiary, which means if you pass away, the trust then gets the assets, and the trust could do whatever whatever rules are inside of the trust that it says that it could do.